the same method. Yeah, agreed. Good morning, everyone. As you are coming in, please feel free to join the Kahoot. You just want to go to Kahoot it and enter in the game pin. Is that one on?
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yes, come closer even. Nope, there's hardly anyone here. As you come in, if you can just sign up and into the Kahoot, that would be great. Please just go to Kahoot it and enter in the game pin. Hey, Damien.
No, we are recording it, but we're not streaming it live. So they can get that later.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's that? What do they have to do? Sign in?
They have to sign that they're actually.
Gotcha.
They just. No, maybe there's a code of conduct. Let me check it with Pat.
Okay.
We're not starting for another few minutes.
Yeah. As you come in, make sure that you are signing in, and also please join our Kahoot game at Kahoot it, and the game pin is up on the screen. So they are signing in up there, right? Yeah.
Those are the code of conduct.
Oh, okay.
She's going to start passing around the sign-in sheet she has.
Okay. Right there. No, you don't have to sit that close. I told him he had to sit close. Give me moral support. Thank you, Joey. Yeah, sit right in the front. Yep. There's prizes too. Come on, All right, we're going to get started in about 2 minutes, so please make sure that you are signing into our Kahoot game. What's that? Oh, recruited John, nice. Want me to go to the welcome?
Good morning and welcome. We're so glad all of you are here with us today. At the back of the room, there are code of conduct. So if you did not pick one of those up, that's okay. You can pick those up on your way out. So we'd ask that you please come on down and have a seat. Please sign into the Kahoot. We're going to get to that in just a moment. So please come on in. If you have not picked up the code of conduct yet, that's okay. You can get it at the end. With the code of conduct, in case there is confusion, there has been changes to the code of conduct. So we are asking you to please sign the code of conduct again. There have been some changes, so please look through it carefully and make sure that we sign it again. If you haven't done that yet, that's okay. We can do that at the end of the session, or you can hand it into your offices within the next couple of days. Okay, good morning. We are going to go ahead and get started, so thank you so much for your attention. We are super grateful for the opportunity to have this hour this morning to talk about child protection and child safeguarding at SFS. By way of introduction, my name is Matt Johnson. I'm the middle school assistant principal, and presenting with me today is Caroline Scott, the middle school counselor. Thank you. Both of us are passionate about safeguarding. Both of us are a part of our safeguarding team here at SFS. There is also, by way of announcement, there will be sign-in sheets that will be passed around, so please make sure that you sign in that you were here this morning. If looking on the list, if for some reason you don't see your name on there, please write it at the bottom and sign it. Without further ado, let's pass it on over to Caroline.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. We've got a really fun Kahoot game to test your safeguarding knowledge. And we have some amazing prizes for our top 3 winners. And by amazing prizes, I actually mean small tokens of our appreciation for playing. All right, so we will get started.
Right now?
You guys ready?
If you didn't get in, sorry. We have 110. We are going.
Okay, so here we go. Which of the following is not a type of abuse? Physical, emotional, neglect, or social?
We don't have the sound.
No, I don't know where the sound is. It was there. Hold on, technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. Nice job. You identified it correctly. It is social.
All right.
We'll have to go without sound, unfortunately. All right. The leaderboard is up. Next question. Child protection is an integral part of the safeguarding process, are optional protocols for international schools and not required by law, are the preventative steps that an organization takes to keep students safe, is not as effective without a comprehensive safeguarding framework. All right, good job. 2 of those were correct.
Four.
Okay. Next question. Physical abuse can involve ignoring a child and not speaking to them, fondling a child's private areas, threatening to hit a child with a belt or hanger, telling a child they are stupid and you don't love them. All right, it is threatening to hit a child with a belt or hanger. That is physical abuse. Nice job, Megan. Next question. If you see an adult entering a student-only bathroom, you should say that this is not an adult bathroom and direct them to an adult toilet. Do nothing. Report the incident to the child safeguarding lead. Use the bathroom with them so that they are not by themselves with students. All right, nice job. Megan's still holding the lead. A sign of neglect is constantly hungry, slapping, rape, threats. Constantly hungry. All right. Next question. The following is not a sign of possible online abuse. So not a sign. Stress because he, she needs to be online. Secretive using or hiding screen. Cuts and dyes their hair in a strange way. Lots of new contacts, followers, new devices. What is not a sign? Cuts and dyes their hair in a strange way. All right, Megan's holding strong. When boys experience cyberbullying, they are more likely to have someone threaten them, to not care about it, to have someone spread rumors about them, to be surprised because it never happens to them. Exactly, to have someone threaten them, they are more likely to experience that. All right, next question. If a student discloses information about possible abuse, you should listen with empathy and then offer them advice about what to do. Promise them you won't tell anyone. Encourage them to see the counselor and promise that things will be fine. Listen with empathy, without judgment, and report your concern ASAP. Correct. Which of the following is not a sign of sexual abuse? Watching pornography with a child, touching a female's breasts, saying mean or cruel things to a child, involvement in sexual activity without consent. Saying mean or cruel things to a child is not a sign of sexual abuse. If you receive inappropriate content online from a student, you should not save and secure the evidence content on your device, send forward content to child safeguarding lead or admin, take the device, turn it off and turn it in, report concern by following our reporting procedures. What should you not do? Exactly, we don't want to send forward content. All right, non-accidental cuts and bruises are a sign of which type of abuse? Sexual, emotional, neglect, or physical? Physical, good job. Holding on to her lead. Persistently telling the child that he, she's naughty and can't behave is a kind of which abuse? Physical, emotional, sexual, or neglect? Emotional. Online abuse includes all of the above except accessing or possessing images and or videos of child sexual abuse, sextortion, using sexual images, live stream, or videos depicting a child, cyberbullying, or masturbation. Masturbation is not online abuse. If you have a concern about a student and suspected abuse, you should notify your section counselor before the end of the day, email your counselor a detailed description of your concerns, contact your counselor or admin within 30 minutes. Don't worry if no one responds to your text, call, or email. They're probably busy. Yep, contact us within 30 minutes. So here we go. Let's see. Number 3, Megan. Number 2, Sarah. And number 1, dun, 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 Calvin. All right, if we could have our top 3 come down to the stage and get their fabulous gifts. And just before we move on, if anyone has questions about some of those answers and are confused, feel free at any point to talk to myself or Matt after this presentation, or any of the counselors in your section. All right, so as you are aware, the content that we're talking about is sensitive, it's serious, and for some of us, it's very uncomfortable. So if at any point during the presentation you're feeling like you can't really handle this, you're feeling a bit uncomfortable, please feel free to step outside, take a break. We understand this sometimes is very difficult to listen to. So what we want to do today with you is develop a knowledge of how our safeguarding policy protects not just the students, but it also protects you. As well, we want you to know how to report and respond to disclosures. As you saw in one of the Kahoot questions, our expectations around reporting have changed a little bit, and so we'll go over those changes today. And we want you to know what bathrooms to use on campus to keep yourself safe. So the agenda, we did our Kahoot. We're going to talk about child protection and child safeguarding at SFS. We're going to talk about, is this even relevant to us? And then confidentiality, reporting, and disclosures. And finally, bathrooms. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Caroline. Thank you so much. We just want to spend a little bit of time talking about where we've come from the last few years and then where we're headed. So back in 2019, a lot of thanks to Andy Freeman and Margaret Park, they got the conversation started. We started reviewing some documents, as well as, if you recall, Doug Walker came in and did some training for us. Actually, he did some training virtually for us, which was really helpful to get us started in this journey. 2020 and 2021 were important years for our committee. There was a lot of work that was done during that time. The substantial work was the child protection policy, and that's very similar to the one that you look at today and the one that we review. Very extensive policy that we have there. The code of conduct that is back there, that will be signed every year. That was work that we had done. Visitors code of conduct in English and Korean for all of the visitors that come on campus. We do have a child protection lead. So Dr. Cho is our child protection lead. So she works closely with the counselors and the leadership team if there are cases that do come forward. So I just want to highlight Dr. Cho and the work that she does. We are super grateful. She is wonderful for that. So we are super grateful to her for that. We updated reporting documents, try to make them a lot more clear, a lot more user-friendly. The training that we have every year, we're grateful to have this time here to be able to present. And then I do also want to make notice of the Child Protection Committee over the last couple of years. I want to make sure I have all the names. No, it's not on the next slide. So we have Andy Freeman and Jenny Purvis and Dave Hahn and Caroline Scott and Nate Doling, and Dr. Cho, and Celine Jin. I may be forgetting one person, Rob Elliott, thank you, and myself. So we were the members of the Child Protection Committee. Can you go back a couple slides? Thank you, that's okay. One more. And then I do also want to highlight some of the work from last year. So we did have a safeguarding guide that is in draft right now, and that's one thing that we're gonna hope to move forward. We did do an internal facilities audit looking at specifically restrooms and CCTV coverage around campus. Lanyards, we have done a lot with this, especially with our visitor lanyards, to make sure that all visitors have it on, to make sure that all faculty and staff, what our goal is that everybody that's walking around campus, including parents, is that they're all wearing their lanyards at all time. And then we do have inserts inside the lanyards that I'm hoping that a lot of you are using as well, with numbers of our counselors, so that if we do have a case that comes up, that is easy access. And then we will be speaking about restrooms and the change that we had at the end of last year. We also want to look at just moving forward a little bit and our plan hopefully for this year and the next few years. So we do want to move to a safeguarding focus. In the past, it has been child protection, which is just one aspect of the safeguarding umbrella, which we'll talk about here in a couple minutes. So we want to expand it to safeguarding. We do have an expanded safeguarding team, which will include different members of leadership. We'll put those names up here in just a minute, but we do want to expand the team so that we can really move forward and make some good changes. As I said before, with the guide, we have a safeguarding guide in draft, and that will be hopefully completed by the end of the school year. We do want to look at a pre-K2 to grade 12 curriculum. And so how are we supporting students, and how are we making sure that they have information about protection and safeguarding so we can help them Training, we have the training at the beginning of the year for all faculty and staff, all employees. We want to expand that. We want to make it better. We want to improve it, looking at parents and looking at students and looking at all community members. So how can we enhance the training that we have? And finally, we want to enhance our communication. We want to be more transparent. We want to make sure that you are getting the information that you need about child protection and child safeguarding. Here are the members of our safeguarding team for this school year. So you see there are different members of leadership, 2 of the counselors on there. And I do want to talk about, we do have a deputy child protection lead. So Celine Jin is our deputy child protection lead, so that if Dr. Cho was unavailable, she would be able to step in and support through that process. And she does support that process already. She does work with Dr. Cho. So we're super grateful for Celine for taking on that position as well. So thank you very much for that. And so you'll see this group is the advisor group, strategic. They're looking at how can they help guide and move the school forward and making decisions. We have an expanded safeguarding team that does include different directors, for example, with admissions or sports or technology or GA. We do have an expanded group. And really when it comes down to us, all of us are in charge of safeguarding. So all of us are responsible. All of us are part of the team in order to make sure that all of our children, that all of us on campus are safe at all times. Do want to spend just a quick second talking about the difference between safeguarding and child protection, because in the past we've always talked about child protection, and now we're switching that language to include safeguarding. Safeguarding is the big umbrella. It's everything that we do to make sure that children are cared for, that they are protected, that they're emotionally and socially and doing well at school. So safeguarding is that overall umbrella when looking at what we do for the well-being of students, whereas child protection is just a small little aspect of that. It's just one of the many things that come in with safeguarding, and really that has a lot to do with the reporting and recording when there is a suspected case of abuse or neglect or maltreatment. So child protection is just a small part of that larger umbrella of safeguarding. And hopefully this diagram will help you to understand that a little bit better. So child protection up there on the top is just one aspect. As a school, some of these we do really well. We do have a whistleblowing. We do look carefully with hiring and recruiting. There are some of these things that we do well, and there's some of these things that we need to improve. So safeguarding includes this, plus a number of other things that could be included in here as well. So it's everything that we're doing to make sure that not just the students, but all of us are protected at all times while on campus. And then finally, as we talked about before, safeguarding is a responsibility of all of us within the country of Korea. So we are mandated reporters. So if you suspect something, if there's something that just doesn't quite seem right, we need to make sure that we are reporting it. We need to make sure that we're bringing it to the counselors, that we're bringing it to the leadership team to make sure that we can look into it and help move forward and help make sure that this truly is a safe place for all of the students and all of us as well. So let me pass it on to Caroline.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So like Matt was talking about, obviously safeguarding is important. It's all of our responsibilities, and it also has a lasting impact. If we're able to effectively prevent or intervene effectively and help minimize the impact of what kids are experiencing if they're going through traumatic situations, we are dramatically increasing the chances of them having more positive life outcomes. So for example, we know that adults who have experienced 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, including physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, they're 7 times more likely as adults to experience interpersonal violence, either as a perpetrator or as a victim. They're also 30 times more likely to attempt suicide. Another statistic, if we're looking just at sexual abuse, is the number of people who experience childhood sexual abuse are much more likely than as adults to re-experience sexual assault. So you can see at this top graphic, these are the men and women who experience childhood sexual abuse who then go on as adults to also re-experience it. Whereas if they don't experience it in childhood, they're much less likely to experience it again as adults. So child safeguarding is not just, though, about protecting the students. It's also about protecting us and keeping us safe from vulnerable situations and potential risks. We also want you guys to know that if you have a concern, whether it's about a student that you maybe suspect is experiencing abuse or a colleague that maybe you suspect is behaving inappropriately, we do want you to speak up and speak out. And our safeguarding policy protects those of you that do choose to, or that do speak up and speak out, because it's in the best interest of keeping our community safe, and we want people being aware, being reporting, and making sure we're being proactive in working together to protect everybody. So some of you might be sitting here and thinking, well, you know, this is great what you're talking about, but we are all professionals here. We're very kind, we're caring, we're good people, and we're not abusers. So, you know, this is not that relevant to us. That's true. But unfortunately, good people still sometimes experience negative situations. And I want to share a story with you here that was shared with me a number of years ago. When I was working at my previous school, we were doing a safeguarding audit, and we had Tim Garish come and work with the school. He's a pretty well-known figure in the international child protection community. He's been a former police officer of Scotland Yard for over 30 years, so he's done a lot of work with international schools, and he was sharing with our school a situation where there was a teacher who had a negative interaction, not negative interaction, but negative relationship with a student. They didn't really get along that well. And I think we can all think of one or two students that we've had that, you know, we just weren't able to form a good relationship with. Well, one day that student was walking down the hall and he saw that the teacher's classroom door was wide open. And on the teacher's desk was his cell phone. So the student walks by, goes into the classroom, picks up the cell phone, and swipes right. So now he has access to the teacher's camera on his phone. And he puts the camera down his pants and he takes pictures of his genitals. And then he returns the phone to the desk and walks away. Teacher has no idea that this has happened. So then the student later in the day goes to the principal and says, this teacher has been abusing me, and he's been taking pictures of my genitals, and it's on his phone. So of course, if you're the principal, what are you going to do? You're going to investigate and have a conversation with this teacher. So he calls the teacher down, explains what happened, and the teacher is shocked. You know, he's a good teacher, he has a good relationship with students, he's well liked in the community. He can't believe these allegations. If you are the teacher, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to say, I didn't do it, this is not true, check my phone. So he hands over his phone, and what's on the phone? But pictures of the student's genitals. So these things, unfortunately, do happen to good people. Some of you might be really familiar with this story, which is the unfortunate story of Neil Bantelman, who was an assistant principal at an international school in Jakarta. And in fact, this event that happened was one of the, I think, big groundbreaking events that really woke up the international school community to the fact that we need to do better with safeguarding. Because he was accused by a student of using his magical powers to rape him. And unfortunately, the allegations held up, and he was sentenced to prison and was in prison for 5 years before he was able to finally be released. And again, I know that some of you here are thinking, well, you know, these stories are all well and good, but we've been a community for a long time, we know each other well, and this stuff really, it just doesn't happen here. We're again, we're good people, we have good students, we have good parents, and this is a safe community. And I'd like to agree. I'd like to say, sure, that's true. Unfortunately, statistics just don't support that. So some of you, when you walked in, should have received an elastic band. If you did, can you please stand up? All right, those of you that are standing represent this statistic. 1 in 2 children aged 2 to 17 years have suffered violence in the past year. So the statistic's actually from 2020, but you can see it's still quite a recent statistic. So that means all of you that are standing represent the 1 billion children that have experienced physical, sexual, emotional violence or neglect in the year 2020. Thank you for standing. You can take a seat. So some more sobering statistics. I won't go over all of them, but again, these are global statistics from the World Health Organization from 2020. But you can see nearly 3 in 4 children, so 300 million children globally, aged 2 to 4 years, regularly suffer physical punishment and/or psychological violence at the hands of their parents or caregivers. 1 in 3 children aged 11 to 15 years have suffered bullying in the past month. 120 million girls and young women under 20 years of age have suffered some form of sexual forced contact. I won't go over all the statistics, but you can see that they're rather disturbing. And so as much as we are a safe and loving and compassionate community, the statistics tell us that there are people who are experiencing negative events like this. And they get away with it because the perpetrators hide in plain sight. And I think many of us know the story of Dr. Larry Nassar, who is the USA gymnastics doctor who molested over 150 gymnasts over the course of his career, and sometimes right in front of the children's parents. And it happens in Korea. These are some of the headlines I just pulled from the past year. And you can see that it's certainly an issue here as well. And over on the right, where the headline reads, South Korea reels from latest high-tech online sex trafficking case. This was quite shocking, this story, and they've actually made it into a Netflix documentary called Cyber Hell. And I'm not sure how many of you have watched it, but I did. And it was really quite disturbing, and some of the kids who are involved in the sex trafficking, who were victims of the sex trafficking, were middle school students. So it's happening, unfortunately. And that's why our safeguarding process is so important. It really is a process of continual improvement. Like Matt pointed out at the beginning of the presentation, we've come a long way in a short time, and we still have a long way to go, but it's ongoing work. It's not a one-stop shop and we're done. It's constant, consistent conversations and work around keeping kids and ourselves safe. So some of the things I want to bring your attention to are, 1, to notify your section counselor or principal within 30 minutes if you receive a disclosure. So the flow chart that was attached to the email from HR that you got about our safeguarding reporting procedure, this is a change to it, and it's an important change, which I'll go over in detail in a moment, as well as asking you guys to complete a form. Okay, so we want you to contact the counselor or admin within 30 minutes of having a concern or receiving a disclosure from a student. You can do that by calling, texting, or email. But if it's a text or email, please, either in the subject line or the first sentence of the text, state that it's a child protection concern. Okay? If you're worried that the student's in imminent danger, don't text or email, just call and keep calling until somebody answers. As well, we don't want you to explain the details of the concern in the email or the text. The reason being that just has to do with issues of confidentiality and the fact that texts and emails aren't very secure. So please refrain from giving details. Okay, you can see the example text or email here. It can simply say CP concern, so CP means child protection. CP concern, please see me as soon as possible. That's all you need to say. The important part, though, is that you get a response within 30 minutes. So somebody responds and says, okay, I'm coming to you in the next 15 minutes, or I'll be there in an hour, but that you've had your concern acknowledged. If nobody acknowledges you within those 30 minutes, then please keep persisting until someone does. All right, the other change is when you talk to your counselor about what the concern is or the disclosure was, they're going to ask you to fill out this form here. It's really simple. You just write the date, your name, the grade of the student's name, and then in as much detail as possible, you just describe what the concern is or the exact wording of some of the things the student says. And what that does is it just helps us eliminate any possible miscommunication. Because I think before it used to be a teacher could tell the counselor and then the counselor would write the concern, but there's more possibility for miscommunication when that happens. So we want the information to be as close to the direct source as possible. And that's why we're asking you to fill out that form, but you can do it with the assistance of the counselor if you need help. And just a quick review of confidentiality. So the definition up here, the non-disclosure of information except to another authorized person. Confidentiality applies to the student or child who is the subject of a report, as well as the employee who makes the report. And so what that means in terms of safeguarding is that when a student is sharing information with you, that information is confidential, but it is not a secret. You can't promise them that you won't tell anybody else. You have to tell somebody, and you have to let them know that you are going to tell somebody. Of course, students don't like to hear that, and I understand these are not easy conversations to have, but they're telling you in the first place because they need help. And they're asking for help, so they might not be fully aware that they need it, but the fact that they are coming to you and sharing that information means that they do want your assistance, and for you to provide assistance, you have to tell the counselor or your section principal. Okay? The information that the student discloses is confidential, so once it's been shared with the counselor and section principal, please refrain from sharing any of that information with your friends or colleagues. And then, of course, the counselor or the section principal will loop back to you at some point and let you know how things are going and share any information that's pertinent to keeping that student safe. But they might not be able to give you a lot of details, and please respect that that's because this information is highly confidential, not because they don't trust you, but because it's not appropriate to share if the information isn't pertinent to their immediate safety.
So Caroline, just want to confirm, so after, if there is a child protection concern brought together to the counselor and they filled out the form, they don't need to do anything else unless a counselor or principal comes back to them maybe for more information or something like that.
Exactly. And you can expect that the counselor or principal will come back to you just to let you know that they're following up and give you any information that will help you keep that student safe. So it can be uncomfortable to hear a student disclose information about abuse. Sometimes we don't know what to say or how to respond. And so I want to share a short video with you that offers some tips about how to respond when you're listening to a disclosure.
It's never easy when a young person discloses abuse. There are probably 1,000 things going through your head, from trying to remember your organisation's safeguarding procedure, to asking the right questions, should you be asking questions at all? But no matter how anxious you're feeling, it's worth remembering that most young people only choose to talk to someone they really trust. So chances are you're already doing something right. Whatever the situation, here are a few simple things you can do to create a safe space for a better conversation. Help them open up. For some children, talking about abuse can be scary. You need to show them that you care and that you are listening to what they say. This can be as simple as changing your body language, and avoid anything that can make you seem distracted or distant. Keep your focus on them. They're the most important thing right now. Slow down and take your time. This chat might only be a small part of the disclosure. They could just be testing the water, so let them go at their own pace. Even if the gaps in the conversation feel awkward to you, it's their story. Give them time to tell it. Reflect back and show you understand by simply going through what they've told you already. If possible, use their language. The specific words they use are an important part of their narrative. And although it's easy to jump to conclusions, or even solutions, right now they just need to feel listened to. You can practice these techniques whenever someone's telling you a story, helping them to open up, slowing things down, and reflecting back in everyday conversations. Won't just make you a better listener, but will also prepare you for when a disclosure does happen. It could change a young person's life.
So hopefully your big takeaway watching that was that it's important just to listen. Please don't feel the need to offer advice or solutions. Just let them know that you appreciate their bravery and them, trusting you with this information, and you're sorry that they're going through that. But beyond that, you don't need to offer anything more. So that's it from my end. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Caroline. I mean, these are often heavy topics, and sometimes it's difficult to talk about, and sometimes it's difficult to hear and have those conversations, but they are super important, so thank you so much. Thank you for sharing some of that data and the facts that go along with it. Really appreciate that time that you had today. We do want to finish up with some conversations about restrooms. So this was one of the big initiatives from the committee last year, and that we are implementing and starting at the beginning of this year. So this is a message that was sent out before, so you'll recognize this. I do want to go over a couple of those points again. We do know that this is a big change, and we do know that we're going to have to learn through it and make sure that we are using the proper restrooms. And the reason why we have the restrooms separated between the students and adults is not only to protect students, but it is also to protect you. This is not because we had a huge incident that happened that nobody's talking about or nobody knows about. This is in line with international schools. This is in line with practice that is happening around schools worldwide, and we need to make sure that we're up to date with that. We need to make sure that we're all protected when using the restrooms. The first point up there is talking about you do have the authority as an adult, as a faculty, as a staff at Seoul Foreign School. You do have the authority and the right. If you do feel like there's inappropriate activity happening in a restroom, or you feel like there's an emergency in a restroom, you absolutely have the authority to go into that restroom and help the situation, figure out what's going on. So you do, and what I would recommend is that you enter with another adult. And again, this is to protect you. If something is happening in there, It is always best to have another adult with you that is going in, and you two can talk together and work together. And if it was some kind of allegation that came back later, you would have the support of that other adult. I would also recommend, for example, if something was happening in a female restroom, that I would try to get a female colleague to go in there with me. If that's not possible, it's not possible, but I would recommend that as much as possible. And I would also say that you're announcing yourself before you're going in there. Announcing yourself can look lots of different ways. For me, typically, I will knock on the door and I will say that I'm coming in, and then I will go in. And that is also just to protect yourself in those situations. If that does happen, please report it to an administrator. Please report it to a leader of your section to let them know what happened, to let them know what the reason why that you needed to go into that restroom, again, to help protect you, to help make sure that it's very transparent with the situation that's happening. There are some, just go back one second. There are some shared restrooms, and specifically those are in the middle school on the first, second, and third floor. And that is because we do not have the space in the middle school to have complete separate restrooms. We do have a few adult-only restrooms in there, but those are shared restrooms. So the same situation, if you are going to use that restroom, please announce yourself before going in, and that could be as simple as a knock and say that you're coming in. If a student does feel uncomfortable with that, if they do express that they are uncomfortable, I don't imagine that this is going to happen very often, but please respect that and maybe wait for them, go to a different restroom. I know that that will be tricky, and I know that it is difficult, but again, we are making sure that we're protecting all of us as well as all of the students. What we're going to go through now is we're going to go through a few of the slides of what the signs will look like, and hopefully you've seen these slides already. But if you look through, there will be some here with student use. Just to give you an idea, for our younger students, this is what the signs will look like. They're all blue throughout campus. For our older students, you will see the signs that look like this, adults only. Some will be single use. This is the one for saying that it is a shared restroom and that you would please announce yourself. And then we do have some restrooms that are for student use between the school day. I do want to make some restrooms, some things that have been changed that will be for note. One of them is right here outside of Robb Hall, where the upper elementary school playground is. That is a student use only restroom between 8 and 3:05. And so it is one of those things that if you notice during that time that adults are using that, if you feel comfortable with it, please say something to them. If not, please come to one of the leaders of the section, anybody on the safeguarding team, and we are happy to address that. All faculty, staff, employees of SFS will be receiving this message, so that should only be used from students between 8 and 3:10 or 3:05. Level 2 of the high school building between the science lab and the makerspace is an adult-only restroom. So that large restroom there is adult only. As I said before, middle school restrooms are shared, as well as we have a brand new adult-only restroom on the second floor. Outside of the weight room in the UAC, they are single-use restrooms, those two restrooms now, and hopefully before school starts, they will be so that you can lock when you're inside of there. So for example, if you do need to change before a workout, after a workout, so those are single use. So for students or adults, you go in and you lock it. Above the pool next to the IT, that is an adults-only restroom. And over in the Liso Center, outside of John Black and Yun Shin and Edie Moon, that is an adult-only restroom on the first floor. The second floor is for students. And then the third floor, where the music classrooms are, that is an adult-only restroom. So those are some of the more notable changes that if you haven't seen, hopefully you'll see those soon. And so I think just finally, to wrap us up today, we just want to have a few reminders here. The first one is that we're all responsible for safeguarding. We are all responsible for safeguarding at SFS. And making sure that our children are safe and making sure that we're doing everything possible as we do every day. Please review those important documents, so the ones that Caroline shared with the reporting, please review those. Please review the child protection policy. The code of conduct is back there on the table. We ask that you please read it before you sign it. Don't just sign it. Make sure you know what you're signing, because you are responsible for that. So those are up there. Those do need to be handed in soon. So if you do not hand it in today, please hand it into your sectional office within the next few days. And I think finally, it's that idea that if you see something, please say something. no matter how small you think it might be, we will look into it. We, as a safeguarding team, we will look into every single concern that comes forward. If it doesn't turn out to be anything, fantastic, but what if it does? And that's where we want to be able to step in and really support our entire community. So if you do see something out there, please make sure that you do say something. And on behalf of the entire safeguarding committee, Caroline and I, we just want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your attention. We will be up here for the next little bit, so if you have any questions that you'd like to come down, please do. But thank you so much for your time and today. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Carolyn. I'm feeling a little underdressed. All right, just can I just say just a couple of things on a couple of the points you made. Thank you for that distinction, specifically around confidentiality, the difference between secrecy and confidentiality. That was a really clear way of looking at that, because I'll say to you now, we have had specific issues where people haven't fully understood that distinction. Very well-meaning, but where it's not understood, it can create huge problems and has created real issues for us in the past. So it's really, really important. So thank you for that. That's excellent. And Matt's absolutely right. There hasn't been any major incident in terms of the restrooms. But I can say to you, having worked in a school where there was an issue, and a member of staff was falsely accused of something surrounding entrance to toilets, the purpose of this is the protection of the students, but also protection of you. So, thank you for bringing it to our attention and coming up with a plan to address the issue. Thank you. That was an excellent presentation. Really, really very helpful. Sobering, tough, but good and clear. So thank you. Let's give them a great presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.